Again, I'm Adam Pitts with Midwestern State University. It's a pleasure to be with you for this session today. This is a very popular topic. I feel like high school counselors would say that this is probably a popular question that comes up among students and parents, and even on the admissions side. There's a lot of people who are like, okay, I've been accepted, now what? And you think you've reached the peak, like, oh, you can give that sigh of relief when you've been successful in gaining acceptance to a college, university. But and a lot of people are like, okay, now what? And as admissions representatives, we spend so much time talking about how to get in, and it's like, once you finally have achieved that, it's like, okay, I've made it, right? I'm at the peak. I've been successful, and the question is, now what? And the thing is, you need to continue to be very proactive. There's a lot more things that you've got to do along the way as far as next steps after you gain acceptance to a college or university. There's still more to do. I found this picture last night. I thought, well, this would be kind of fun to lead with this picture or this illustration. And but anyway, but this is a popular topic, and thought I would throw my contact information up again in case I know I've shared this with my other presentation, but if you're just now, if this is your first presentation with me, this is my contact information. So this is how you can get in touch with me if you have any questions. I've been working in admissions for probably 18 years now. In Texas, I've worked at Dallas Baptist University, UT Arlington, now Midwestern State University. And I've been with MSU for about 5 years now. But I'm a regional representative, so I live and work in the Fort Worth area to be more accessible to all the schools that I work with in Tarrant County and Parker County. So so with Eagle Mountain Saginaw, I would be your main contact if you were interested in MSU. I'd be the one helping you through the admissions process, scholarship process, even next steps, and all of that. You're welcome to take a picture of this as a way of just kind of staying in touch with me. I don't mind serving as just a point of contact or reference for you in general either. So if you're looking at other colleges, universities, and you just like to have a go-to person just to get some of your questions answered along the way, I don't mind even kind of serving in that capacity. Always just want to be helpful no matter what pathway you're taking. So if I can be of any help to you, please, if I can be a resource to you, please let me know. Just a little bit about MSU, just so that you're familiar, or I just want to make you familiar with the school that I represent. Midwestern State University is located in Wichita Falls, Texas. It's only about an hour and a half from this area. So we're one of those schools that's far enough from home, but not too far. Students still can stay connected to family members and home life, only being an hour and a half away, but they still get to have a little bit of independence as well. So our enrollment size is only about 6,000 students. So we're relatively smaller compared to your mid to large public universities in Texas, way smaller compared to like a UTA or UNT. So students are going to get that smaller, more intimate experience on campus, smaller classes. A lot of students use the words homey and family to describe what it feels like to be on the MSU campus. So that's just, a little snippet of information about MSU, and but we'll go ahead and get started with the presentation. This is my longer presentation, so Jody and y'all help me stay on track with time. Let me know when I've got it, when it's down to about 10 minutes or so. I thought this was a nice, a good illustration of, once you've been accepted and you're kind of taking those next steps as a high school senior, as the student, you can see that the student puzzle piece is kind of pulling away from the high school puzzle piece, and you're joining up with the college puzzle piece, and that's kind of what it is. Hopefully you enjoy your senior year and you take advantage of it, and you're only a senior one time in high school, so enjoy it. But you're kind of starting to pull away from the high school side and joining and making that transition to college. And if you've got a plan, if you're staying organized, hopefully you'll be like this student in this picture who's got the thumbs up, who's having a good experience. But I think the only way to kind of have that good experience and to be positive is doing things early and just staying on track, staying organized with all the things that you have to do. And that's being proactive too, you know, being proactive through the admissions part, but also financial aid and, you know, next steps and all that. So to have that good experience and that good transition over to college, you want to be in touch with your admissions counselor. You want to, you know, have a plan, kind of stay organized, and you can have that positive experience with less stress if you're doing that. So, and I'll throw this slide in there once again. It's always good to connect with an admissions counselor. Usually most colleges and universities will have a page where you can connect with the admissions counselor that's been assigned to your area. That way you've got a go-to person, a main contact with any questions or concerns that come up along the way. I've had students and families contact me on a monthly basis, just, hey, Adam, just wanted to check in. Are we doing everything we need to do? Is there anything else we need to do? It's okay to do that. You can stay in touch with us that way. I like talking to people more than just one time, you know, just to kind of build that relationship and get to know you, but also just help you through the process when it comes to certain things. We can keep you in the know or keep you aware of things you need to know along the way. So as it relates to a lot of different things, but you know, it's always good to connect with a counselor if at all possible. This is a good illustration of the phases that you go through, you know, before actually enrolling at a college or university. You know, you first start off with the research and gathering. You maybe did that your sophomore, junior year of high school, maybe early part of high school, senior year. And then you step into that admissions phase where you're applying to 3 to 5 schools or 6 or 8 schools. And then, you know, once you're admitted, then you kind of start working on some of those other phases. Financial aid is that next phase, and that's a very important phase. It involves a lot of details and whatnot. So that's one particular phase that you really want to make sure you stay proactive with. Just like the admission side, if you haven't heard from anyone in a while, if it's been 3 weeks or longer and you haven't heard back about an admissions decision or heard back, same way on the financial aid side, if you haven't heard back or you're not sure, or you're not getting communications via email or whatnot, you may want to follow up and just touch base with someone to make sure you're doing everything you need to be doing, because of all the phases. If you get behind on the financial aid side or you don't complete something exactly right, we're talking about money that's going to help you pay for college. So this is one phase that you really want to be proactive. And we're gonna camp out on financial aid for probably 2 or 3 different slides that I have. We're going to talk through some details about that. And then, you know, once you've applied and been accepted and you've been through the financial aid process, and usually the time frame for all this for admissions, I always recommend applying and being admitted between mid-fall and late fall. Like by December 1st, be admitted to the schools you're wanting to apply to, if at all possible. And then financial aid, you know, October 1st is when that opened up for seniors to start applying for FAFSA. So, you know, applying for that early is important. But you definitely want to kind of have it wrapped up by December 1st, if at all possible as well, because it's just going to put you in a good position moving forward. And it's going to be less stressful on student and parent if you've got that kind of nailed down early. We're going to talk about that a little bit. But, you know, once you've been accepted, once you have your financial aid offers coming in from different schools, then you kind of enter into that decision phase. And you may not necessarily be ready to make a final decision at that point, because a lot of times students are still trying to follow up with a campus visit to a school, trying to connect with an academic department. Maybe you're applying for some scholarships or waiting to hear back about scholarships. You're still shuffling around your schools. Maybe you've got a first, second, third, and fourth choice school, maybe even a fifth choice school. So it's like, okay, based on financial aid, based on, are some of my schools that are number 4, number 5, do I want to move them up a little bit higher because maybe they're offering me more money? Who knows? And so you're kind of trying to make those decisions and to lead up to that final decision of maybe where you're going to go. And then once you kind of narrowed it down to your top 2 to 3 schools, or maybe you've already made a final decision, then you got all the next steps. There's a number of things like that you've got to do to be ready to enroll at a college university. There's early advising and registration. There's the meningitis vaccination that all schools are going to require you to submit. There's I think I said early advising, registration. There's orientation that you're having to sign up for, whether that be in person or maybe online. This last year, a lot of schools were offering online orientation. So there's also with among public colleges and universities, you may be required to take the TSI assessment test, which serves as like serves as a placement test for putting you in the right classes starting out. So SAT and ACT can exempt you from that if you've got a certain test score on that. But if you haven't taken the SAT or ACT and you're not exempt from TSI, then you may need to take it so that before you register for classes at a public college or university. So there's other things that that you will need to be working on beyond acceptance before you enroll at a college or university. And I'll throw this slide in there too, just how you go about that, how you put those puzzle pieces together will determine your success in getting through those phases. So like I said earlier, doing things early, having a plan, staying informed, connecting with an admissions counselor, financial aid counselor, just staying connected throughout all that's going to help you put the pieces together in a way that you hopefully end up at a point where you're making a final decision on a school that's a good fit for you in every kind of way, and you're able to move forward and have a great 4-year college experience. So and now we're going to camp out here on as it relates to financial aid and scholarships. And like I said, there's about 2 or 3 slides of this. So and there's a lot of information to kind of go through. And if y'all have any questions along the way, feel free to use the chat feature. Jody and Virginia will help me maybe keep a close eye on the questions that are coming in. And if we don't get to your question, we'll try to save it to the very end. But once again, the ideal time to submit FAFSA is between, I'd say, October and December. October 1st is when you can start working on it as a senior. And like I said, earlier the better. If you start the process early, you have the chance to get the maximum amount of aid, and maybe that's going to be the incentive for you to get things done early and not put it off. And I have that last statement there. It pays to do things early. A lot of universities will get additional grant money, and we will award that money on a first come, first served basis. So if you qualify for like federal aid or state aid based on your FAFSA, if you get things turned in early, you could have a chance to add an extra $1,000 to $2,000 more of aid to your financial aid. And sometimes it might even be more than that at some colleges and universities. So, by doing things early, it does pay to do it early because you could get more aid that's going to help you pay for college. But if you're that person who's dragging their feet and you're taking your time with it, you're not going to get as much money, and it's going to be much more stressful on you, stressful on the student and the parent, really. The longer you wait to take care of what you need to take care of on the financial aid side. And then make sure you're submitting your FAFSA at all the schools you've applied to. If money is a big concern, make sure you complete that process at each school so that you can get an accurate account of like what the cost is going to be, but also how much aid, because that could weigh into your final decision, how much money you're getting and all that. So make sure you complete that admissions and financial aid process at all schools you've applied to. know your deadlines. Turn everything in a month or 2 months earlier before your actual hard deadline. So just, you're going to save yourself a whole lot of stress and all that if you can just, be well ahead of those deadlines that are out there. Some colleges will award aid in the late fall or early spring. There's some that will get those, will respond to you early and get those financial awards out early. But most universities award aid probably like between February and March. MSU is one of those schools. We award aid late fall, early spring. That's just when we typically send the financial award letters out. Every school is going to be a little bit different. So it may be that, hey, you get a financial award letter from one of your schools early, and then you're having to wait to hear back from another school. But it might be worth that wait before you make that final decision. So just so you've got a big picture of everything that you're qualifying for from all schools before making that final decision. And money certainly has a lot of weight, but it's not the only factor involved in choosing a college. So, but it's good to have everything kind of all together as you're trying to make that final decision. When it comes to scholarships and all that, be aware of the automatic scholarships. Automatic scholarships would be, and we have automatic scholarships at MSU, but I think UTA and UNT and several of the big schools offer some automatic money as well. So know the deadline, apply and be admitted before that deadline, because if you're meeting that GPA requirement or that test score requirement, that could be an automatic offer that's coming to you. And I always describe that as the easy money. All you've had to do was apply, be admitted before the deadline date, and then then it's just you're sitting back and waiting on that scholarship offer, automatic scholarship offer to come to you. There's no additional scholarship application. There's no process of being considered for the scholarship. It's an automatic offer. So take full advantage of those automatic offers that are out there. If you have an SAT or ACT to submit that will help you qualify for a scholarship, submit that. If you're retesting and you're going to be able to score and you score, submit that higher score before the deadline so you could bump up to a new scholarship category possibly. So be very aware of those automatic scholarships. When I was at UT Arlington, I can remember people applying beyond, like they'd get accepted like a month later than a month after the deadline, and they would have a really good SAT or ACT score, and it's like, oh man, if only you had applied and been accepted before that deadline date, you could have gotten maybe an extra $1,000 to $2,000, and it's like, oh, I'd feel so bad for the student because it's very easy money to be had if they were just aware of those deadlines for the automatic money. There's also departmental scholarships where you apply through a certain academic department or maybe some other type of department on campus. Some schools have it set up where you fill out one application and you're considered for all scholarships. And then there's going to be some schools like MSU where we have a separate application for every scholarship. So you have to go through, read the criteria, decide whether or not you're meeting or somewhat close meeting the criteria, and then apply for the scholarship. But it's good to look at those, because that could be a way of adding a scholarship onto your financial aid package. So it's always good to take a look at that. MSU is really good about stacking scholarships. Other schools may not stack, may have a limit to how much they stack, but there are some schools out there that will stack aid, and things can start to add up. You don't have to get the full ride scholarship, to pay. A lot of people ask about that. They want the one scholarship that's going to pay for everything, and that's just very rare to come by. But if you're applying for a lot of little scholarships along the way, in addition to your financial aid, it can add up to maybe being equal to a full ride scholarship or getting you pretty close to that. So don't leave out some of those even smaller scholarships along the way. And you got to invest some time here. I thought there's a lot of students I've worked with in the past who've had great incentives, like I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and then they kind of fall short on the number of scholarship applications they're completing. And the less you apply for, the less money you will potentially get. But the more you apply for, the greater your chances of getting more of that money. So you gotta devote some time to filling out scholarship applications and being ahead of your deadlines and all that. There are audition-based scholarships as well, you know, especially as it relates if you're a music student, whether it be choir or band, or if you're a theater arts student, colleges will allow you to do an audition and to be considered for not only the program, being accepted into the program, but also considered for scholarship money. So I recommend doing these auditions late fall, mid to late fall, or late fall, early spring, so that you're given the university time to evaluate you and get back to you so that you can make a final decision, hopefully mid to late spring. I have worked with students who waited and did the audition late, and then it just creates more stress on you as you're trying to make this final decision, but you haven't heard from this school yet. Am I in? And how much money they're giving me? You know, and it can really just kind of, you know, just make things worse for you, or put you in a hard position where you're having to make a decision before you're ready and all that. So doing it early, you're going to hopefully hear back from the schools that have admitted you into their program, but then you have the scholarship information as well to help you make a better decision regarding fit and all that. There's also designated scholarships, other scholarships, like maybe donor type scholarships that could be lower scholarship amounts, but still adding those in can add to your package, your financial aid and scholarship package. So always be looking at even the donor scholarships. Sometimes I know on our website, donor services scholarships are on a separate web page, so you have to find the link and go and look at that. Go to a different web page to see the other listing of scholarships that we have through donor services and scholarships. So just be aware of that. There could be a couple of different places to go and find a listing of these scholarships. And don't forget about outside scholarships, money in the community through businesses, corporations, all that. I describe that money as icing on the cake. It's extra money that you get to stack on top of our money and on top of financial aid. So, so certainly be pursuing that. And I think I've already said this many times, but you want plenty of options on the table. So have, you know, different schools that you've applied to, that you've been accepted to, have your financial aid results sent to, so you can hear back about financial aid. Apply for the various scholarships at those schools too, so you can hear back from all the schools you've applied for and all that. This is this slide shows you an example of some of our automatic scholarships listed at the top at MSU. Freshman distinction down to freshman recognition are automatic. So for a student who has a 1070 or a 21 or higher, you know, it's good to submit a test score. Even though we're test optional, it's good to submit a test score because that's automatic money right there. So, and the deadline's not until April 1st. So always be aware of those automatic scholarships. This is just an example for MSU. But then usually there's going to be some high dollar scholarships as well. So if you've applied and been accepted early, you're putting yourself in a position to apply for some of those high dollar scholarships that may have earlier deadlines, like in December, January, or February. And there, you know, specific criteria for each one. I'm not going to take the time to go into each one, but you can, you know, there's other high dollar scholarships you can apply for if you get things kind of done early and you meet the criteria. We are a participant through Raise Me as well, which is a micro scholarship platform where you can earn money for different universities that you're applying to. You're basically rewarded for your college readiness behavior. So you can get a dollar amount for certain grades that you have. You can get grades for your AP scores, test scores, extracurricular activities, service hours. If you're an AVID, you could get $100 for being an AVID. If you're an Upward Bound, you get a certain amount. And even if you go out there and create an account through Raise Me and you come on a campus tour to MSU, we give you $200 right there. So how about that? You know, be paid $200 to come on a campus tour. That's pretty nice. So every school has different parameters in terms of how you earn scholarship money with them. But you can create an account as early as your freshman year in high school and be earning up to $2,000. For us, you can earn up to $2,000 every year up through your senior year. So it's an $8,000 max. So it's just a different way of earning scholarship money, and you could be earning money through multiple universities at the same time. So check that out, and it's real easy to do. So take a close look at that. And I might be a little bit repetitive through this, but on this other slide for financial aid and scholarships, when you apply for outside scholarships, you might want to use some of the different sites that are out there, like CapEx, Chegg, FastWeb, school, maybe the district website. Sometimes the district website will have scholarship listings. Work with your high school counselor on this. They could probably recommend some other options, or if you have a college advisor, they should be able to share some different options to look at. Like I said earlier, this is the icing on the cake. This is extra money you get to stack on top of our money. And I'll also just give you a straightforward statement on this. If you're relying on, I'm kind of jumping ahead to that next, to my last bullet point, where you do not want to depend on one pot of aid to cover your costs. So if you're that person who's relying on the FAFSA to cover all your costs, that is very unrealistic. It's not going to happen. FAFSA can only do so much. FAFSA can make, like at MSU, FAFSA can take care of tuition and fees. That's like a $10,000 value right there. It can take care of that, but it usually doesn't help you on the housing, meal plan, books and supplies side. That's like another $10,000 at MSU. So if you're not applying for outside scholarship money through the community, businesses, corporations, all that, and applying for university scholarships, you're forcing yourself to have to take out student loans. And that may be a very blunt, straightforward statement, but you need to hear that. If you're not applying for outside scholarships, university scholarships, you may have to very well take out student loans to cover that remaining expense. Because FAFSA can only go so far. So just keep that in mind. This is one particular phase in the process that you want to be very proactive with. There are various pots of aid, and usually it takes getting aid from those different pots of aid, like work study, financial aid, like through FAFSA, outside scholarship money, university scholarship money. Getting money from those different pots of aid can add up, to cover a majority of your cost if you're being proactive. Know your deadlines so that you're making sure you're getting everything turned in on time. Know the renewal requirements for scholarships, and make sure it's not just, if you get a scholarship offer from a school, make sure it's not just a first time or first year scholarship and that's it. Find out if it is renewable and what the requirements are to renew that scholarship going into the next year. That's always good to know. That way you know what your GPA needs to be that first year to be able to maintain that scholarship. That's always important right there. When it comes to financial aid, always follow up. Make sure documents are being received. If it's been a while since you've heard from anything, or you haven't received confirmation on something, then always follow up on the admission side or the financial aid side to make sure things are being received. We're talking money that's going to help you pay for college, so you want to be very proactive. You may feel like you're annoying the heck out of somebody, but it's worth it. You want to be that person who annoys, because this is money. This is money we're talking about here. So be very proactive and stay on it. We'll keep moving along here. I think I got an example here and of a financial aid scenario, and I'm calling this one the procrastinator, the passive seniors. This is someone, so if you look on the chart here, I have basically our total cost of attendance at MSU. So it breaks it down: tuition and fees, housing, meal plan, books and supplies, transportation, personal miscellaneous expenses. This is what most financial award letters will show when they send you a financial award letter. They're going to give you, they're going to show you the aid that you qualify for, and then also give you the total cost of attendance. Your major expenses are tuition and fees, housing, meal plan, and books. And but financial aid has to build in estimated expenses for transportation and personal miscellaneous as well. Now, at MSU, you probably only need about $20,000 to $22,000 a year to get you by with the major expenses. If you didn't want to, If you had other forms of support, like, family, or you were going to work a job or something to help cover transportation and miscellaneous, you could kind of leave that out of the total cost if you had other forms of aid. But if you're kind of on your own, then you may want to have additional aid to help cover that cost as well. But that's kind of what you're looking at as far as big picture, aid. And that, I'm just using MSU as an example here. But for a senior, let's say you applied, been accepted, you've turned your FAFSA in kind of early, but let's just say that's all you were depending on. So for the procrastinator, the passive senior, let's just say maybe you turned in your FAFSA early, maybe even were a little bit late with turning in the FAFSA, but you did not apply for any other scholarships, university scholarships or outside money. So you can see here, this student in that free aid column, based on adjusted gross income and all that, maybe 65,000 or less. He's qualifying for the federal Pell Grant, the Texas grant, all that's free money. So, he's got tuition and fees covered, but what about housing, meal plan, books, supplies? He didn't apply for scholarships. So he's stuck with having to take out loans in that last column there, to help cover that remaining cost. And so that's just kind of like a reality here. I wanted to give you like a visual of what the reality is for some seniors, if they haven't applied for other scholarships and they're just relying on FAFSA. Okay. This is kind of what you could be looking at. And even if, like I said, if you didn't take out student loans for transportation and miscellaneous, you at least still need to have enough to cover, housing, meal plan, and books. Probably at least 10,000. If you didn't take 13,000 out, you'd have to have at least 10,000 in loans or 10,000 in a payment plan, or to help cover that cost. And and there are other options. Like I said, there's the payment plan. There's a payment plan you could do. There's other avenues for paying for school and all that. So. And you can make adjustments to your financial award as well. It's not like it's set in stone when you're awarded financial aid. You can inquire and learn about all your options. The next slide is one that I thought I changed the numbers and I didn't, so I'm just going to have to talk y'all through it. So the next slide is the early bird, the proactive senior. The numbers are the same. I forgot to add additional aid to the free aid, but typically for an early bird or proactive senior who's, let's say they've applied and been accepted on time, they've had their FAFSA done early. But what I meant to include on this one is this would be the student who does apply for scholarships through the university, does apply for outside money, and I meant to include some additional scholarship money. So that this student would probably qualify for maybe more like $15,000 in free aid and scholarship money, and it would take out the loan debt either altogether or only limit them to just one loan. Maybe it's only the $3,500 subsidized loan that does not accrue interest while they're in school. Maybe that's the only loan that they have to take out, or maybe there's no loans at all. But that's the difference between the person who's procrastinating and the passive senior who doesn't apply for scholarships versus the early bird, the proactive senior that is applying for scholarships. So, and like I said, I meant to update my slide there, but
hey, just know Adam, we only have about 5 minutes left.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I thought showing you this would give you kind of like a reality picture there of what students look at or looking at in on the financial aid and scholarship side. When it comes to making decisions and all that, once you get into that phase of making decisions, that housing is certainly a big to-do item under decisions. Am I commuting? Am I living on campus? Am I going with a private room, or am I sharing a room? Private room does cost a little bit more money, just so you know that. There's options when it comes to meal plan. If you go with like the all access meal plan, that's going to be a little bit more expensive versus one that's a little bit more conservative. People do lose money on the meal plan too. So people think, well, I'm going to eat and I'm going to eat. Well, there's a lot of free food that's offered in college. And if you go home to get a home cooked meal, or if you decide to go out for pizza with friends on a weekend, you may not eat, you may not use all those meals, and you can end up losing money. So you want to be very realistic in terms of how many meals you're going to be, eating each day, and that will help you choose a meal plan. Financial aid. Are you accepting? What aid are you accepting? What aid are you declining? And you really need to get an idea of the actual cost before you start making some decisions on that. How much debt can you handle? And then there, like I said earlier, there's options. You can do a payment plan instead of taking out a student loan, or a combination of both. A lot of students are still trying to figure out what am I majoring in? What was the quality of that major, and is it preparing me for my career path? Maybe you're still making decisions among colleges, as it relates to location, big, small. What school is going to be the better fit for me? So there's a lot of decisions that are still being made after being accepted, and these are just some of the things that I wanted to put on your radar. That you'll probably have to wrestle with at some point. Next steps. Every university has a portal, like a portal where you access information and know what your checklists are. Access that. Access your email accounts. We're going to be communicating with you via those email accounts. Make sure we have a good personal email, but also make sure you activate that university email account so you're getting all the communications that come your way. TSI, I kind of mentioned that earlier, state required placement tests. If you're not taking the SAT or ACT, you're going to be required to take it. SAT and ACT could exempt you from it, but that is something that if you do need to take it, usually you're doing that between February and June of your senior year. Every school is going to require the meningitis, so you're going to have to be submitting that at some point. And that's good for 5 years. Once you have that vaccination, you're usually good for 5 years. And then, it continues on with next steps. Academic advisor, meeting with an academic advisor is important. Early advising and registration for us is in April and May. So take advantage of those early advising opportunities. If you have AP scores to submit that so that college credit can be transferred in. Take advantage of like welcome receptions, acceptance days, honors days, any kind of special day with the university where it allows you to make connections and get questions answered. Take advantage of those opportunities, okay? And then, sign up for orientation early. That could be in person, then it could be online like it was last year. So just be very aware of that. But these are all the little next steps that you take care of along the way. Paying a housing deposit or paying a prepayment for housing between December and March is one thing you might have to do. When it comes to submitting financial aid paperwork, sometimes you can be selected for verification where you have to submit additional documents. Or if you're planning on taking out a loan, there's going to be online insurance counseling, promissory notes that have to be done before that aid is completely there for you, and before that aid is dispersed to your account. So there are some things that you've got to take care of there. Know your payment deadlines. That way you can avoid being dropped from classes. Know your move-in day, so you know what you need to have pulled together and have ready to go for move-in day. And just know the holds on your account. If you're looking at your portal, university portal, you're able to keep track of the holds on your account and all that. And this is my last slide right here. Y'all can just kind of read this over. These are just helpful tips from college admissions counselors, just things to keep in mind as you finish out the process and go through those next steps after being accepted. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Adam. We appreciate you being with us today.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us, and we hope you enjoy your Saturday.